Hey everyone, it's Joy here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing Spellbinders club kits for April 2024. I am using the Glimmer Hot Foil, the Betterpress, the Stencil of the Month, and the 3D Embossing folder of the month. So we have 4 cards here that we're going to create, and it's a cute sewing theme. I love it. So we're going to start with our Glimmer Hot Foil plates. You have all these fun stitching lines. You have a few sentiments. So those are the 3 stitches that I'm going to be using on our first card. So I have my Glimmer Hot Foil system getting nice and hot. I have a piece of Simon Says Stamp 120-pound cardstock. I like to use this when foiling, and I'm going to line up my 3 stitches, but I'm taping it off, or I'm masking it off, because I want to ink blend in those areas and just have my stitching lines on the inked background. So I'm going to tape that in place, and I am going to be using Butter, Peachy, and Cheeky. Yeah, those are the colors I'll be using here. Getting a nice, good, quick, easy blend in between those. And then we can peel back that tape. This is mint tape from scrapbook.com, and we can line up our stitches and we can get those taped in place. When I'm doing my foil, really 99% of the time, I do like to create a hinge. That way, if I don't get a good foil, I can just lay my plates back down, add more foil, and foil it again without having to start over completely, because that would be a bummer. So I have those lined up. I do have them spaced out pretty good. I'm just going to quickly get a piece of tape and hold it down. I'm going to bring in actually some washi tape because it's a tad bit stronger than that mint tape, and I want to hold my glimmer plates together so they don't come apart. Then I can create my actual hinges. So I will use some mint tape for that. So I'm going to do that right here at the top. So these are going to be my hinges. Then I'm using, I think it's called Moon Dust. I think this is the one that came with the kit, but I think that's what it's called. I'm going to cut a strip of that. Look how pretty it is. It's so fun. And then I can add that to my add that to my foil. My brain just totally stopped working, you guys. And then I'm going to tape that down one more time. And then now that's nice and heated up, I'm going to add my shim and my plate, run this through my Platinum 6 die cut machine, and then I can dock this back into my Glimmer Hot Foil system because I want to heat it up again. And then we can peel back our plates, our tape, and then our foil. Look at how pretty that is. I love it. Then for my sentiments, I'm not worried about making hinges on these. I'm just going to add some matte gold foil and then my piece of cardstock. I don't care if these move because these do have a banner die to die cut these out, so it doesn't matter if it's straight or not. I'm not worried about taping it. If for some reason I didn't get a good foiling, I would just do it again. So I ran it through my die cut machine, everything like the first time. I'm going to die cut 3 of these sentiments out. One of them moved a little bit when I ran it through my die cut machine, and so it kind of double foiled, so I'm not going to use that one, but I will use the other 3. Then this is the 3D embossing folder of the month. I am going to use this for a couple of my backgrounds, actually, for my cards here. I'm going to use a piece of white cardstock. I'm just deciding how big I want it. I did trim down that foiled background a little bit. I am going to add a small black mat behind it, and then we have our sentiment that says stitched with foil. So let's go ahead and adhere that down to our mat here, and then I can add this to that embossed background. It's so cute. It's a bunch of needles and thread, and I just think it's so darling. And then we have our sentiment of that, of course, I'm going to pop up with some foam adhesive. And then I will add a little bit of some gold foil confetti, or gold fever confetti, I think it's the gold fever, because it's not, because I kind of want it to match that gold mat. Okay, this is the stencil. You have quite a few layers. There's 2 layers that are for the thread themselves. I have offset this to the right. You're gonna, if you do it normally, you're gonna have 6 pieces of 6 reams of thread. I only want 5. So I slid it over, centered these in the middle, and then the next stencil will fit in between the 3, if that makes sense. Well, the other 2 will go on the other side, each side of this yellow one here. So I just happened to walk past my little cart that has all of my thread and stuff, and there was the greens, yellow, and some kind of corally, peachy colors, and I thought that's what I'm going to use for my card here. So it totally was inspiration from my little stitching station, I will call it. So I'm going to ink blend that so we have all of our nice little thread here. I'm going to line up that next stencil. I'm only going to do the 2 in the center, not the far one on the right. I am not going to do that because I only want 5 of these, not all 6. So now I'm going to do a lighter color of green. I'm using Simon Says Stamps Aspen Sage. I believe I used Butter, and then Peachy and Cheeky is what I used. So let's do our last one here. And then when I peel this back, you guys can see that it is nice and centered. Now the next step here, the number 3 stencil, I'm actually going to do last because I want to use a stencil paste. So I'm going to go to number 4 and 5 first. That one I'm going to do last because we need that to dry and I don't want to wait. And it doesn't really matter ultimately, these next ones, which order you do it in. So I'm going to use some black soot for this. Distress Oxide ink. I'm going to blend that for the packaging of our thread essentially. I want to tape off these little side pieces. I don't want to accidentally start getting all willy-nilly with my ink blending and ruin my background. That would be such a bummer. So I'm going to ink blend black over this. Then the next stencil I'm going to use honey ink. It has a really nice gold tone to it, so it'll be perfect for the wrappers of our little thread here. Or our floss, whatever you want to call it. I'm just going to wipe up my stencils really quick. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. Just kind of depends on the mood that I'm in. So let's put that down, and then I will use that honey ink, and then we can go back to stencil number 3. This is kind of like, it gives you the lines that it's like the thread. I am going to use a gold stencil paste from Lawn Fawn. I thought that would be fun because some of that thread and that floss that you see has those fun little gold threads running through it, and you guys know how much I love gold, and I just think it's so pretty. So that was my idea for this. So we will use that stencil next, and then I will set this card aside to dry. So let's put that final stencil on here, and I am using Waffle Flowers Grip Mat. I don't know if I mentioned that. And then I was kind of being silly with the stencil, like, how does this line up? Because I had it upside down, or wrong side up. So I'm going to put that in place, and then just with a palette knife and my gold stencil paste, I'm going to add that, and it did dry pretty darn quick. It wasn't a really thick layer, but I really think it made a fun difference. We are going to add the sentiment to this that says happy stitching. I do trim down on the sides, and I do add a black mat behind it, not the top and bottom, but just on the sides. And I don't know that I showed that till the very end, so I did just want to say that Glimmer Hot Foil sentiment that says happy stitching, that's what's going to go on this card. So I'm going to put that aside to dry, but look at how pretty that is. But I am going to cut that excess white off of the sides. Then we have our Betterpress here. Look at how cute this is. I just think these are so darling. We're going to use this for our next 2 cards. So this comes with a little registration acetate sheet so we can line up our little thread holder. I can't think of what it's called right now, you guys. I am so sorry. But I love that it's so scrolly and pretty. So I'm going to ink this up in Thunder ink. This is a Betterpress ink. And I just thought it is a medium gray, but I thought that would be really, really pretty. I inked that up, put my cardstock on the top piece. This is the cotton porcelain cardstock, and ran it through my die cut machine. Now I'm going to take that piece off, leaving that registration acetate piece there, adding my thread, and I'm going to use taffy and azalea because I'm going to do this twice to ink up for the threads, place the top back down, and then again running this through my Platinum 6 die cut machine from Spellbinders. And then I can just slide down. I was going to move the paper and then I thought, no. I had stamped on the back and forgot that I needed to use the registration mark. So I stamped the two things without stamping the thread. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So I had to start over. But I did stamp my sentiment on the back of that. I didn't use it on this card. I actually ended up not using it all. I put it aside and ended up not using it. I ended up using foiled sentiments. So I'm lining that up again, inking it up with that Thunder ink, same process, running it through. And then I will do the thread, this little thread plate here, and I will do it with my other color. I'm going to ink that up. I think that is the taffy. Making sure, you know, when you ink it up, it kind of moves. So make sure before you go to stamp it that it's nice and lined up in the registration marks on that piece of acetate that comes with these, the Betterpress plates. I'm using the coordinating die to die cut those two out. I'm going to use some beautiful floral paper from Honeybee Stamps Simply Spring patterned paper. And I am using, again, that 3D embossing folder. I did that with white cardstock and I'm going to layer this. But I picked this really pretty patterned paper in the background because it felt like maybe it looked like a little bit of a quilt, like a pretty quilt that someone was sewing. So to me, it made sense to have this thread. This sentiment says, "So thankful." When I die cut it, I slid over the banner die. So I have this big white area. I'm just going to cover it up with my other little spool of thread here. I know it's not a spool, but I can't think of what it's called. I'm just going to cover that up and you won't even know it. I'm going to pop this up with foam adhesive, and of course I'm going to add some gold fever confetti. But I like having that pretty patterned paper behind that background. I think it makes the color of the thread pop up off the background. All of these are A2 size cards. Let's add a couple more down here. I'm using the Pick Pro tool from scrapbook.com, and I can't tell you how much I love this tool because the other end is a pokey end, kind of like your tool in one, but I love having it on this one thing. Like, it works so nice. Okay, let's foil. Let's foil with our Betterpress. So I'm going to take the scissors, the thimble, and that little thing that holds the string or the floss, and a sentiment. This is a sentiment I'm going to use on this last card. Let's foil this up. I'm going to wait for this to get hot. I am going to use gold matte foil on this. And I am going to use it on the same 120 pound cardstock. Let's get that gold foil down. Pretty foil side to the plates. Laying that down. Once it's ready, nice and hot, then I can run it through my die cut machine. But while I'm waiting, I'm going to run part of this. I actually ended up not using this, so I'm not really sure why I left it in the video, but it is to show you that you can just stick your paper partway through in an embossing folder and use it. But I actually ended up not using this for this background. I was going to, but I did not. But I was waiting for that to get hot. I ran it through my die cut machine. Some of the scissors didn't foil perfectly, but I really wasn't that worried about it. This felt a little bit like vintagey to me. So the fact that it wasn't perfect actually was okay with me. If I wasn't going to add some florally background paper to it, it probably would have bothered me, but it didn't on this. I have some other foil or floral paper from Honeybee Stamps Simply Spring pattern paper, and I'm going to add a gold mirror matte behind it, just a really small matte, that little bit of pop of gold. And the sentiment says best stitches on your birthday, and I did already have these have some foam adhesive because I did adhere it to that embossed background and I just didn't like it, so I changed it to this background, so everything already had foam adhesive. And I did not add any string to that little floss holder. I didn't add any floss to that. You could do it that way. I just liked it blank. There was something about all of this that just seemed really soft and pretty, and I liked the way it looked. So everything has some foam adhesive. I'm going to tuck the thimble under there, and this will be adhered to a white A2 size card base, and of course finished with some gold foil or gold fever confetti. And then we can take a look at all the cards here in just a minute. But I love Spellbinders club kits. I love that there was just this whole running theme. You know, there's always a theme, and it's just so cute, and all of these were darling. The scissors, I think, are so, so pretty. I just loved the little details to everything that they have here. Okay, let's take a look at these. Again, they're all adhered to a white A2 size card base. Here's that first one we did. Just kind of colorful and playful. Then we have our stenciled background. You can see that black mat on the sides where I trimmed down the white. I think this one's my favorite. It's just really soft and pretty. I love this one. And then this next one is, I really like it too, with that floral background and just all of that gold. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching. I hope that you enjoyed all of these projects, and I hope that you leave my videos feeling inspired. Thank you guys again, and have a wonderful day.